The sign was taped to my parents' front door with blue painter's tape, the kind my mother used whenever she did not want to damage the paint. It was one sheet of white printer paper. The words were written in thick black marker, Wa Milcom R. For a few seconds I thought it had to be a joke. It was my 30th birthday. My mother had called me 3 days earlier and told me to come at 7. She said she was making pot roast because it was my favorite when I was a kid. She told me not to bring anything. She even said, "Just bring yourself, sweetheart. Let us take care of you for once." I had believed her. That was the embarrassing part. After everything, after years of being treated like an emergency contact instead of a daughter, I still drove across town in my good coat with a bakery box on the passenger seat and a small bottle of wine in a gift bag. I still parked on the curb instead of the driveway because my father hated when people blocked the garage. I still checked my reflection in the car mirror and tried to look calm. Then I walked up the porch steps and found that sign. Behind the door, I could hear my family laughing. Not nervous laughing, not shocked laughing, normal laughing, comfortable laughing. The kind of laughter that happens when people have already eaten the appetizers and poured the first round of drinks. I heard my brother Eric say something about the game. I heard my sister Lauren tell him he was disgusting. I heard my mother laugh in that bright, sharp way she used when guests were around. Plates clicked. A chair scraped the dining room floor. Someone turned up the music. They were inside, having my birthday dinner without me. I stood there with my hand still raised, like I had been about to knock on a door that did not belong to my childhood anymore. I wanted to knock. I wanted to demand an explanation. I wanted to rip the paper off the door and walk in like I had every right to be there, 'cause I did. Instead, something inside me went quiet. It was not peace. It was not strength. It was the sound a house makes after everyone leaves and all the rooms settle into darkness. I took out my phone. My fingers were shaking so hard it took 3 tries to open the camera. I photographed the sign. Then I turned around, carried the cake back to my car, placed it carefully on the passenger seat, and drove away. At the first red light, my phone started buzzing. Mother, then father, then Lauren, then Eric. Message after message lit up the screen. Don't make this a big thing. You know what you did. Dad just needs time. Come back and apologize. You always ruin everything. I stared at those words until the light turned green and someone behind me honked. That was when I blocked every number: mother, father, Lauren, Eric. My aunt, because I knew she would call next. My cousin, because she never called unless my mother told her to. Even the house landline, which my parents still kept because my father said cell phones were unreliable. By the time I reached my apartment, the car was silent. I carried the cake upstairs, sat at my tiny kitchen table, and opened the box. I ate one slice with a fork straight from the box. I told myself I was done. But being done with your family is not like turning off a lamp. It is more like pulling a nail from wood. Even after the nail is gone, the hole remains. For the first 2 weeks, I moved through my life like I was underwater. I went to work, I smiled at my coworkers, I answered emails, I bought groceries, I did laundry. At night, I sat on my couch and looked at the photo of the sign on my phone. You are not welcome, RE. Every time I looked at it, I asked the same question. What did I do? The easy answer was nothing. I wanted that to be true, but I had spent my whole life being trained to search myself for guilt. If my father was angry, I must have spoken too loudly. If my mother cried, I must have been selfish. If Lauren needed money, I was cruel for asking when she would pay me back. If Eric broke something, I was difficult for noticing. I wrote down every conversation I had with them in the month before my birthday. Every text, every dinner, every strange pause. The list was normal at first. My mother had asked me to help her choose a new dishwasher. My father had asked whether my company was hiring. Lauren had complained about her landlord. Eric had sent me a link to a truck he wanted but could not afford. Then I remembered Thanksgiving. My father had cornered me in the garage while everyone else packed leftovers. He asked if I could temporarily help with the house payment in January. He said it casually, like he was asking me to pick up milk. I asked how much. He said $12,000. I laughed because I thought he was exaggerating. He did not laugh. He told me property taxes had gone up The adjustable mortgage had reset, and Eric's business loan had caused complications. He said the bank was being unreasonable. He said family helped family. I said I could not hand over $12,000 without seeing what was really going on. My father looked at me like I had slapped him. "You don't trust me?" he asked. I said, "Not with any more." That was the first honest sentence I had said to him in years. His face changed, not dramatically, just enough. A door closed behind his eyes. 2 weeks later, my mother invited me to my birthday dinner. And then the sign appeared. My family broke me slowly, politely, and with good table manners. My father, Richard Wetaker, believed respect meant obedience. He was the kind of man who kept his lawn perfect, his truck clean, and his emotions locked behind his teeth until they came out as anger. At church, people called him dependable. At home, we called him Dad and listened for the heaviness of his footsteps. My mother, Elaine, could make strangers feel cherished in under 5 minutes. She remembered birthdays, baked pies for sick neighbors, and wrote thank you notes in perfect cursive. She also knew exactly where to press if she wanted you to bleed without leaving a mark. Lauren was 2 years older than me and had turned helplessness into a career. Her emergencies were always real to her: rent, car repairs, broken phone screens, bad boyfriends. If Lauren cried, the family moved around her like furniture being dragged toward a fire. Eric was the youngest. He was charming, reckless, and protected by the strange family law that boys are allowed to become men slowly. He dropped out of college, tried roofing, tried sales, tried crypto, tried a food truck, and tried blaming everyone else when each plan fell apart. Then there was me. I was the steady one, the easy one, the one who got scholarships, kept receipts, remembered appointments, and did not cause problems. When I was 16, my mother called me my little rock. I thought it was a compliment. It took me years to understand that rocks do not get asked whether they are tired. By 30, I had a good job as an operations manager for a medical supply company in Columbus, Ohio. I rented a modest apartment, drove a 6-year-old Honda, and saved more than I spent. I was not rich, but compared to my family, I looked rich because I did not live in a permanent state of financial emergency. That made me useful. Lauren borrowed from me first. $400 for rent, then $900 for a deposit, then $1,300 for a medical bill that turned out to be a vacation with her boyfriend. When I finally asked for a repayment plan, she cried to my mother. My mother called me cold. Eric came next. He needed $5,000 for equipment for a landscaping business. He swore he had contracts lined up. He sent me photos of mowers and trailers. I gave him $3,000 after he promised to sign a simple agreement. He called the agreement insulting. My father called it legal nonsense. I sent the money anyway because I was 27 and still thought boundaries were something selfish people invented. 6 months later, Eric sold the trailer and used the money for a down payment on a truck. When I confronted him, he grinned and said, "Relax, Nora. You're not exactly starving." I stopped lending after that. Or I tried. What followed was a family campaign disguised as concern. My mother told me money had changed me. My father said I had become arrogant. Lauren said I thought I was better than everyone. Eric said I was obsessed with control. By the time my father asked for $12,000, they did not want help. They wanted access. The birthday sign was punishment. That realization came slowly, and then all at once. On a gray Sunday in February, I went to a coffee shop and unblocked Lauren for exactly 5 minutes. I did not text her. I only wanted to see if old messages would come through. They did. 37 of them. At first, they were angry. "You're seriously not coming back? Mom is crying. Dad says you're dead to him until you apologize." Then they became strange. "You need to call me before Mom does something stupid. Dad found out about the bank thing. Eric is freaking out." Then one message, sent at 2014 in the morning, made my stomach drop. "Nora, I know you saw the sign. I told them it was too far. But you have to understand why Dad did it. He thought if you felt embarrassed, you would finally stop asking questions." I read that sentence 10 times. Stop asking questions. Questions about what? I blocked her again before I could answer. That should have been the end of it. But mystery has a sound. It scratches at the inside of your skull. It whispers while you are trying to sleep. Stop asking questions. I had only asked one real question: what is going on with the house? The house had been in our family since I was 8. My parents bought it when my father got promoted at the parts plant. A 2-story colonial with white siding, green shutters, and a porch my mother decorated for every season. To everyone else, it was the symbol of the Whittaker family's success. To me, it was more complicated. It was the house where I learned to walk quietly. The house where my father punched a hole in the laundry room door, and my mother hung a wreath over it before guests arrived. The house where I hid acceptance letters because I knew leaving would be treated as betrayal. Still, I had loved it once. I remembered the maple tree out front, the squeaky 4th stair, the little pencil marks on the pantry door where my mother measured our heights every September. I was not sentimental enough to save people who hurt me, but I was human enough to feel the ache of losing a place that had held my childhood. That was why I made one mistake. I started investigating. I did not call them. I did not unblock anyone. I did not confront my father. I started with public records. That sounds dramatic, but it was embarrassingly simple. County property records are not secret. Mortgage filings are not secret. Tax liens are not secret. You just have to know where to look, and you have to be willing to see what is there. On my lunch breaks, I searched the county recorder's website. The first mortgage looked normal. Then there was a second mortgage from 5 years earlier. Then a home equity line of credit. Then a lien from a contractor I had never heard of. Then another lien released and replaced. Then a filing connected to Eric's failed food truck business. My father had used the house as collateral again and again. The numbers made my chest tighten. By my rough calculation, my parents owed more on the house than it was worth. That explained the $12,000, but it did not explain the sign. It did not explain why asking questions had made my father decide to exile me from my own birthday dinner. So I looked closer. One document listed a guarantor for a small business loan, my father. Another listed a co-signer, my mother. A third document made me stop breathing for a second. It was an application summary attached to a financing statement. Most of it was boring legal language. But halfway down, under personal references and household contributors, I saw my name. Nora was a borrower. Not exactly. As projected household support. Projected household support FERS $500 monthly. I sat at my desk staring at that line while phones rang around me. They had listed my money before asking me for it. Maybe it was not illegal. Maybe it was just ugly. But it told me something important. My father had not asked for help because he hoped I might say yes. He had asked because he had already built my yes into his lie. When I refused, I did not disappoint him. I exposed him. That night, I created a folder on my laptop called Door Sign. Inside it, I saved everything. The photo, screenshots of messages, public records, loan filings, tax bills, date names. I am not a lawyer, and I did not pretend to be one. But I knew enough to protect myself. If my family was willing to tape a sign to the door and call it love, they were willing to do worse when money was involved. The next frightening thing happened in March. I received a letter from a collections agency. The envelope was addressed to me at my apartment. The debt was not mine. It was for a credit account opened at a home improvement store, tied to an address I recognized immediately, my parents' house. The balance was $4,782.16. I read the letter 3 times, then sat down on the floor because my knees felt untrustworthy. My name had not just been used as a reference. Someone had used my personal information. I checked my credit report that night. There it was, a store card I never opened, a late payment, a second inquiry from a lender I did not recognize, then a third inquiry from a bank tied to Eric's old truck loan. I did not cry. I did not scream. I went very still. There is a kind of fear that makes you weak. There is another kind that makes you precise. I froze my credit. I filed disputes. I filed an identity theft report. I saved every confirmation number. I called the store card company and asked for copies of the application. The representative sounded bored until I said, very calmly, I did not open this account and I want the application packet preserved. 2 weeks later, the packet arrived. The signature was not mine. It was close enough to insult me. The loops were wrong. The N was too sharp. Whoever signed it had practiced, but not enough. The listed phone number belonged to my mother. The alternate contact was Eric. I put the papers in my door sign folder and called an attorney. Her name was Marisol Crane. She had an office above a bakery downtown and the steady voice of a person who had heard every family excuse before. I laid everything out on her desk. The signed photo, the messages, the debt letter, the fake signature. She read quietly for a long time. Then she looked up and said, "Nora, I need you to understand something. Your family may call this drama. A bank will call it fraud. A court may call it identity theft. Do not communicate with them unless I tell you to." For the first time since my birthday, I felt the ground under my feet. Not happiness, not revenge yet, ground. Marisol helped me send letters. We disputed the accounts formally. We notified the lender that my information had been used without consent. We sent a cease and desist letter to my parents' house, even though I doubted they would respect it. We warned them not to contact my employer. In April, my boss called me into her office. Her name was Denise, and she did not waste time. "Nora," she said, "I received a call this morning from someone claiming to be your mother. She said you are unstable, that you stole family money, and that we should be careful giving you access to company accounts." My whole body went cold. Denise watched my face and softened. "I did not believe her," she said. "But I need to tell you it happened." I opened my phone and showed her the photo of the sign. Then I told her the short version. Not everything, just enough. Denise listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "Send me the attorney's letter. HR will document the call. If they contact us again, they will be told to go through counsel." That was the first time an authority figure believed me, without making me prove my pain twice. I went to the restroom afterward and cried quietly in a stall for 7 minutes. Then I washed my face and went back to work. By summer, the mystery had become a map. My father had borrowed against the house to fund Eric's business attempts and Lauren's emergencies. My mother had hidden overdue notices because she believed appearances mattered more than math. Eric had used my information because he knew enough about me to pass basic verification. Lauren knew more than she admitted, but less than she feared. The birthday dinner had not been a mistake. It had been a test. They wanted to humiliate me, isolate me, and make me desperate enough to apologize. Once I apologized, they would turn the conversation back to money. They would tell me the family was in crisis. They would say my refusal had caused it. They would ask again, and this time they expected me to pay. But I did not go back, so the crisis kept growing. In August, a certified letter arrived at my apartment. This one was from a law firm representing a lender. My name appeared in a file connected to Eric's business equipment financing, not as a borrower again, as a household contributor and emergency guarantor. Emergency guarantor. I laughed when I saw that phrase. It came out sharp and humorless in my kitchen. Emergency guarantor was exactly what my family had made me my whole life. Not a daughter, not a sister, a backup plan with a pulse. Marisol handled the letter. She was polite, firm, and terrifying on paper. Within a month, the lender confirmed I had no obligation. The store card was removed from my credit report. The inquiries were disputed. The identity theft report stayed on file. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt tired. Justice is not always loud. Sometimes it is a stack of envelopes, 3 phone calls a week, and the discipline to not answer when your mother finds a new number to call from. Because she did find new numbers. Unknown caller, private number, a cousin's Facebook account. I never responded. Then, on the anniversary of my 30th birthday, exactly 1 year after the sign, my father walked into my apartment building and waited by the mailboxes. I saw him before he saw me. He was standing under the ugly fluorescent light in the lobby, holding a manila envelope in one hand. He looked older than I remembered. Not fragile. My father would never allow fragile. But smaller somehow, like a coat left out in the rain. For one stupid second, my heart hurt. Then he turned, and his face hardened. "Nora, not sweetheart, not happy birthday, not I am sorry, just my name, like a summons." I kept my hand on the strap of my work bag. "You need to talk." "No, we don't." He held up the envelope. "The house is going into foreclosure." I had known it was possible. Marisol had warned me. The public records had pointed in that direction for months. Still, hearing him say it made the lobby tilt for half a second. The house. The white door, the porch light, the maple tree, the pencil marks on the pantry door. Foreclosure. My father must have seen something move across my face because he stepped closer. "Your mother is sick over this," he said. "Lauren's kids will have nowhere to go for holidays. Eric is trying to keep his head above water. We need you to stop this." There it was. "We need you." "How much?" I asked, though I already hated myself for asking. His shoulders loosened. He mistook the question for surrender. "58,000 to cure the default," he said. "More to get current with taxes, but if we handle the first part now, we can figure out the rest." I stared at him. $58,000. He said it with the same casual entitlement he had used for 12,000. "And you came here because?" I asked. "Because you can help." "No," I said. "You mean because you think I can be used?" His jaw tightened. "Don't start twisting this." I laughed once. "Twisting it?" "Dad, you taped a sign to the door on my birthday and listened to me stand outside while you ate dinner." He looked away. "That was one mistake." "No, it was a bad night. It was my birthday." "And you blocked your entire family for a year like a child." There he was, the real him, not the tired man in the lobby. The judge, the executioner, the father who believed pain only counted when he felt it. I took out my phone. He frowned. "Calling my attorney." His face changed. "You don't need to do that." "I do. You were told not to contact me directly." "For God's sake, Nora. This is family." I looked at him then. Really looked. Family doesn't forge signatures. The color drained from his face. For a moment, the lobby was so quiet I could hear the elevator cables moving behind the wall. He recovered quickly, but not fully. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know enough. I know about the store card. I know about Eric's financing papers. I know about the projected household support you listed before you ever asked me. I know about Mom calling my boss. I know about the lions. I know about the foreclosure timeline. And I know that if you do not leave this building right now, the next conversation you have will be with police." His mouth opened, then closed. For the first time in my life, my father had no room big enough to hide in. He left, not dramatically. He did not yell. He did not slam the door. He walked out like a man trying to keep dignity from leaking through his fingers. I stood in the lobby until my breathing steadied. Then I called Marisol. She was not surprised. "Do you want to pursue charges?" she asked. I had imagined that question for months. I always said yes immediately. I imagined police at the house, my father stunned, my mother crying, Eric finally scared, Lauren finally quiet. But real life is heavier than fantasy. I said, "I want them stopped. I want my name clear. I want them unable to use me again." "Then we have options?" Marisol said. The option we chose was not glamorous. It was paperwork, pressure, and consequences. Marisol contacted the lenders and provided the identity theft documentation. She warned my parents through their attorney that any further use of my information would trigger immediate legal action. She sent copies of the forged application and the call record from my employer. She made it clear that I would cooperate fully with any investigation if they tried to pull me into their financial disaster. Then she did something my father never expected. She contacted the foreclosure attorney and formally notified them that I had no ownership interest, no guarantor obligation, and no financial responsibility for the property. In plain English, she removed me from the fantasy. Without me as the imaginary rescue plan, the numbers were the numbers. The house was underwater. The arrears were real. The lions were real. The missed payments were real. Their choices were real. My family reacted exactly the way trapped people react when the mirror finally stops lying. Lauren emailed me first from a new address. "How can you do this to Mom? She can't sleep. You know Dad made mistakes, but you are taking it too far. The kids keep asking why Aunt Nora hates us." I did not answer. Eric sent a message through Instagram before I blocked him there too. "You think you're so clean. You have no idea what Dad did for you. You owe this family." I did not answer. My mother mailed a letter. Her handwriting on the envelope made my throat tighten before I opened it. Inside were 4 pages of beautiful cursive and not one real apology. She wrote that she never meant for things to go this far. She wrote that my father had been under terrible stress. She wrote that Eric had made poor decisions, but had a good heart. She wrote that Lauren was sensitive and should not be punished. She wrote that the sign on the door was cruel, but I had to admit I had been difficult. I folded the letter and placed it in my folder. Not because it hurt me anymore, because it was evidence. The next month was chaos from a distance. Through public records, I watched the foreclosure move forward. Through relatives I had not blocked, I heard pieces of the family panic. My parents tried to refinance and were denied. Eric tried to sell his truck, but he owed more than it was worth. Lauren started telling people I had abandoned the family during a crisis. My mother posted vague quotes online about forgiveness and ungrateful children. I said nothing. Silence, I learned, can be a locked door too. Then came the final attempt. It happened on a cold evening in January, almost exactly 1 year after the birthday sign. I came home from work and found all 4 of them waiting outside my apartment building. My father stood at the front with a folder under his arm. My mother was wrapped in a beige coat, eyes red, mouth trembling. Lauren stood behind her, arms crossed. Eric paced near the curb, angry energy rolling off him in waves. For a second, cold air. Family voices. A door I was not allowed to open. But this time, I was the one with the key. I stopped 10 feet away. "You cannot be here," I said. "Please, Nora. Just hear us out." "No. We are going to lose the house," she whispered. My father pulled a paper from the folder and slapped it against his palm. "Auction date is set. We have 3 weeks." Lauren's voice cracked. "Do you understand what that means?" I looked at her. "Yes." Eric scoffed. "Of course you do. You've been watching it happen like some kind of psycho." That used to work on me. The suggestion that my calm was cruelty. It did not work anymore. My father stepped closer. "You're really going to let us lose the house?" The same question he would ask later, in my memory 1,000 different ways. "You're really going to let us lose the house?" As if I had missed the payments. As if I had forged the signature. As if I had taped the sign. I took a slow breath. "No," I said. "You lost the house. I am just refusing to buy your way out of the consequences." My mother's face crumpled. It was one mistake. I pulled out my phone, opened the photo, and turned the screen toward them. The sign filled the display. No one spoke. "This was not one mistake," I said. "This was the only honest thing you ever put on that door. You told me exactly where I stood. I believed you." Lauren wiped her eyes angrily. "So what? Forever?" "No," I said. "I am protecting myself forever. There is a difference." Eric stepped forward. "You're acting like we killed someone. You stole my identity." "I didn't steal anything." "Then you won't mind explaining the application packet to a detective." He stopped moving. My father turned on him so quickly that I knew, in that moment, he had always known. Maybe not every detail, maybe not every account, but he had known enough. "Eric," he said quietly. Eric looked at the pavement. My mother made a small sound, like the last breath leaving a balloon. There it was. The family portrait without the frame. My father had gambled the house on pride. My mother had protected the lie. Lauren had benefited and called it love. Eric had crossed the line and trusted everyone to cover the tracks. And they had all expected me to pay for the privilege of being mistreated. Marisol had told me not to engage. But there are moments when a person needs to hear themselves say the truth out loud. I said, "I will not give you money. I will not co-sign anything. I will not call the bank. I will not speak to your attorney except through mine. If any of you contact my workplace again, use my information again, or come to my home again, I will file the police report Marisol prepared. It includes everything, the store card, the signatures, the calls, the messages, the sign, all of it." My father stared at me with hatred so naked it should have frightened me. Instead, it freed me. Because behind that hatred, there was fear. He knew the old rules were gone. My mother whispered, "Nora, please. I'm your mother." That almost broke me. Not because it was persuasive, because for one brief second, I remembered her measuring my height on the pantry door. I remembered her kissing my forehead when I had a fever. I remembered the smell of pot roast and lemon polish and her perfume before church. Then I remembered the sign. I remembered the phone call to my boss. I remembered the forged signature. I remembered eating birthday cake alone under the buzzing light in my kitchen. "You are my mother," I said. "That is why this took me so long." She covered her mouth. I walked past them into the building. My hands shook when I unlocked the door. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. But I did not turn around. 3 weeks later, the house sold at auction. I did not attend. I did not watch from across the street. I did not drive by afterward. I found out through the county website on a Tuesday morning before work. Sold. One word. A whole childhood reduced to one word. I expected to feel victorious. I did not. I felt sad. Deeply, strangely sad. Not because they lost the house, but because I finally understood that the home I had been grieving was already gone long before the bank took it. A house is walls and floors and a roof. A home is safety. I had been homeless in that family for years. The fallout was not clean. Revenge rarely is not in real life. My parents moved into a rental 2 towns over. Lauren stopped speaking to them for a while when she realized there would be no inheritance from the house. Eric faced questions from a lender, and although I did not push for prison or headlines, the fraud report stayed alive long enough to scare him straight, or at least scare him quiet. My credit recovered. My job was safe. My savings stayed mine. On my 31st birthday, I did something small. I bought a cupcake from the same bakery that had made the cake I threw away the year before. Chocolate, vanilla buttercream, blue lettering. This time, it said "Welcome, Emma Nora." I ate it at my kitchen table with the window open and the evening air moving softly through the apartment. My phone did not buzz. No one demanded money. No one told me I was selfish. No one made me earn my seat. I sat there in the quiet and realized I was not lonely. I was free. Sometimes people ask whether I ever forgave them. I always ask what they mean by forgiveness. If they mean I stopped shaking when I saw a white colonial house with green shutters, eventually. If they mean I stopped replaying the porch, the laughter, the sign, yes, mostly. If they mean I wish them suffering every morning, no. That burned out faster than I expected. But if they mean I opened the door again, handed them my money, and called that healing, then no. I did not forgive them that way. I forgave myself instead. I forgave the girl who tried so hard to be easy to love. I forgave the young woman who lent money she could not afford to lose. I forgave the daughter who stood on the porch for too long because she still hoped someone would open the door and say it was all a misunderstanding. Most of all, I forgave myself for leaving, because leaving saved me. That night I made dinner for myself. Nothing fancy. Pasta, a salad, a glass of wine. I lit a candle because I wanted to, not because anyone was coming over. Then I sat at my table and wrote a note on a clean sheet of paper. "You are welcome here." I taped it to the inside of my apartment door. For me, every morning when I left for work, I saw it. Every evening when I came home, I saw it again. "You are welcome here." Those 4 words did not erase what happened. They did not turn my parents into different people. They did not undo the fraud or save the house or rebuild the family I wanted, but they built something better. A boundary. A beginning, a home. And when people ask me if I regret not saving my parents from foreclosure, I tell them the truth. I did save someone. And this time, when I closed the door, the sign was on my side.